Yeah. Yeah, you believe it now. You believe it because we got lights and we got beats and we got all this crowd screaming and going nuts and kissing people. But what about tomorrow? What about next week? When you go home and you say, and you make that one mistake that you promised you wouldn't make. You do that one thing that you promised you wouldn't do anymore. That one thing that you said, I thought I was past this. I thought I was done with that. And there it is again. Failure rearing its ugly head. And then you're forced down to your knees, tears on your face, maybe cuts on your arms, maybe a picture of yourself in the mirror that you're not exactly happy with, and you got a decision to make. Have you been remade then? Because this world says something different. This world says, the choices you make you who you are. So if you go home and you screw up, well then, you better try harder. You better do better. You better lift yourself up by your bootstraps, and you better prove to the world just how great you can be. My friends, that's not the gospel. The gospel says something so radically different. It says, yeah, you've made failures, you've made mistakes. And yeah, your choices, they have consequences. And you may end up where you didn't want to end up. You may come to a place you didn't want to come. But here's the good news. Where you end up is not who you are. 2 Corinthians has something different in mind. It says, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, the new has come. And let me let you in on a little secret. You didn't do a thing to do that. That's not about your performance. That's nothing you did. That has everything to do with what was done for you 2,000 years ago. When a man named Jesus came and lived the life you could never live, he died the death you could never die, and he rose again over it all. And he says, if you are in me, if you are in my hand, then no one and nothing can separate you from that grasp. And when I look down on you, I don't see failure. I don't see success. I don't see accomplishments. I don't see mistakes. I don't see addict. I don't see bulimic. I don't see cutter. I don't see musician. You know what I see? If you are in me, I see child of God who happens to do those things. That does two things, Louisville. It assaults our pride. Because it says, like I said before, you're so bad Jesus had to die for you. So you can't go walking around thinking you're all hot stuff. You can't go around going through the drive-thru saying, oh my goodness, can you believe what she said? The gospel robs you of the privilege to be proud. But it does something else. It also says you're so loved that he was glad to die for you. So that, my friends, lifts you up out of your fears. It lifts you up out of your mistakes. And it says if you're in Christ, you're new. The old is gone. If you're in Christ, you're not struggling to be free. You're free to struggle. You see, I wish you could understand this. I wish I could understand this. But God's not actually after changing our performance. He's first after changing our hearts. He's after changing our motivations. And that's why the gospel says something so radically different than religion. Religion says you obey and then you'll be accepted. The gospel says you've already been accepted, so obey. Do not mix those two around. We obey because we've been accepted, which means we no longer have to prove ourselves. We no longer have to live to be proud, to be better than everyone. We no longer have to live to prove that we're not that old person. Instead, we can change in those motivations of guilt and pride and fear, and we can change them in for new ones. One's called joy, one's called gratitude, and we can live out of grateful response and love because we've already been accepted. It's all joy. Less talk, more rock. Yeah, I know. We'll get on with it. But I want you to see, my friends, that the gospel frees us from that mirror. We no longer have to get up every morning wondering, did I do enough? Did I try hard enough? Did I make enough good decisions? The gospel says, hey, stop looking at that mirror. Fix your eyes on the source, the author, the perfecter, the one who shines his light on you. We're not made to think high of ourselves or low of ourselves. Louisville, I invite you tonight when this show is over to go home and forget about yourself, because you'll never be more free. You'll never know freedom like adoring someone else. So come on, let's throw our mirrors down. Come on, let's shatter the glass on the ground. Sing, come on, let's throw our mirrors down. Come on, shatter the glass on the ground. Yo, let's have a party on this one. What do you say? Come on. This